So this morning, before I came to class, I did some Qigong. So I did some kinesiology, programmed that into my body, and then I did the Qigong, and then the Qigong kind of balances the kinesiology intentions that I set up in my body. And so if I do that every day, and so if I do that every day, and live a relatively healthy life, the chi levels that are held in my body matrix will just steadily increase. So as that's steadily increasing, it creates like potential energy for growth by building energy. But the growth points aren't necessarily going to be like an even graph. So it's going to build, and then that energy that I built in my system is going to create like growth spurts, like in children. Children sort of like, they just look the same for 6 months and all of a sudden, boom, they shoot up. And different kids will shoot up at different times. So there's irregularities to the nature of growth. So what's happening is the energy is building up in my system, and then I'm prompted to shift in my consciousness because I built the energy up in my system, and then I'll go boom, and then go through a growth thing. So what happens when people grow? It's uncomfortable, yeah. So one of the things about growth is you're moving into new terrain. So you're moving from a known state into an unknown state. So if you're shifting consciousness from this level to that level, the new level is unmapped. Yeah? And so it can be disturbing. So chi stores within the body increase from practice and lifestyle. And that's the blue line. Patterns of change and growth have flat spots with intermittent spurts of growth. So that's the flat spot. So just before growth, there is a period of mental and emotional instability, and they call that perturbation. So biologically, before things grow, they perturbate, which means they become unstable and chaotic. And that's part of that shift from the known to the unknown, because you're facing, something new that you don't have any map for. So you can see, so just as we're coming up to that growth point, that's when we will start perturbating. The instability or chaos displayed by biological systems before growth is a scientific phenomenon referred to as perturbation. How well we deal with the perturbation period is usually the key determinant for the continuation of cultivation of chi. So what do a lot of people do when they start perturbating before a growth point?
Quit.
They what?
Quit.
They quit, or often they self-medicate. Yeah, so a lot of people will hit the booze. So a lot of people will take drugs, or a lot of people will distract themselves with one of their many addictions. And each one of those addictions is basically pissing off their chi. So, and then when they piss off their chi, what do you think happens? They don't grow. So they're managing themselves to stay in the same psycho-emotional framework. Yeah? And so they're like, and they've got lots of people around them supporting them doing that because everyone else is doing it as well. And they call that the web of subcreation because we're all like feeding into each other's, dysfunction in order to, what would you call it? We're colluding, if you like, to stay stuck. And so, dysfunctional patterns interlock, which sort of trigger the dissipation of the energy, which stops the point of growth. So by developing and understanding the wisdom mind through the stability of qi and connection with Shen, we can better negotiate the perturbation period. So this is like in a qi framework. Could be in a prana framework, but I put it in a qi framework because it's in a qigong video. So it is at the perturbation period that our addictions and negative patterns come in, dispersing the qi and postponing growth. So during the growth phase, once the perturbation has been integrated, then the feelings of euphoria and achievement endure for a period. This could be understood as a natural high. So if people manage not to disperse their qi through seeking a kind of dysfunctional high by pissing off their qi with certain substances and behaviours, then it'll allow them to pass through, shift to the new platform, and as they hit that new platform, then they get like a natural high, natural euphoria, because they're now on their new platform.
Does that shift their vibration?
Absolutely. So their vibration, their consciousness, everything's shifted. So it's all happening synchronistically. And so that's why, like over focusing on the physiological, the scientific, you're not embracing kind of the subtle energy determinants that are kind of driving the whole process. Absolutely. We'll look at that shortly. So during the perturbation phase, our mood is low. During the growth phase, our mood is high. When our moods are fluctuating, it's easy to lose sight of the benefits of sustained qi cultivation. So because when your mood's not feeling good because you're facing that point of growth and you're unstable, and so then in order to manage your mood, you then self-medicate in some way to dissipate the energy so that you flatten yourself out. So kinesiology is a great tool for ensuring a cultivation outcome when approaching these periods. And so that's why a lot of the time I talk about, lifestyle changes are needed when you're doing kinesiology, because if you just do the kinesiology, you may not be driving the energy up all the time. So you need things where you're kind of loading yourself with qi, so you're pushing yourself into those perturbation states, and then using the kinesiology to integrate it. If you just integrate stuff, you may not be moving along quick enough to create the optimal growth potential in your lifetime. And that's why other things are beneficial. So kinesiology is generally something that someone does to you. When you do a practice, when you're cultivating your qi or prana or whatever, then that's you doing something for yourself. And so it becomes more balanced rather than being therapized. So this is the flip side, which is what you were talking about. So this person is coming. This person's coming up to their point of growth here, and they start perturbating. But instead of allowing themselves to go to that perturbation, they self-medicate. And what the self-medication does is it mobilizes the qi out of the cellular matrix. So that the qi is stored in the cellular matrix, they self-medicate, the qi releases, they go, I feel good. And so that's the peak of them feeling good because they're getting a burst of qi, but it's coming out of their constitutional energy. And then as that wears off, they slump down to a lower level. And then at a certain point, their body's trying to recover. They perturbate to try and push themselves back up. And then they self-medicate and they drop to a lower level. And they truck along for a while. They get to this point. they're about to perturbate again, they self-medicate and they drop to a low level. So this is, really underlying the whole healing process. So do you think if you're doing that in your life, you can heal? Anything physiological, structural, emotional, neurological, energetic? You can't. It's just the way the universe works. You can't cheat it.
It's like you're pushing upstream the whole time, like trying to heal, but if you keep doing that, you're not getting, you're just not.
Well, you're just hollowing out. You're hollowing out. You're hollowing out. Yeah, you're just losing your vital force, and you're not creating, I guess, the energy you need to lift yourself. Fatigued, your frequency's dropping, your energy's dropping, your health's dropping, but the patterns that are keeping you there are still active. So as the individual faces perturbation, rather than experiencing the discomfort, they may choose to self-medicate with food or behaviour, etc. So that's where they're self-medicating. Qi is released from the tissue with self-medication. The mood level goes up as the qi pours out of the body. So you get that euphoria as the qi is escaping from your cellular matrix. So sugar and alcohol are classics for that. So sugar gives you a little, I feel happy again. And then get on with your stuff, and then you kind of slump. And you have some more sugar and you feel happy again for a while. So mood level goes up as qi pours out of the body.